Right. So, first of all, where's that not working? I would like you to imagine a world where no cold prospecting, um, not having to kind of hustle and grind, but where all your clients came to you via warm leads, where you had a real connection with everyone, that they matched your values, that they were easy to be working with, and essentially that icky bit of kind of lead gen stuff was no more. That'd be a nice place to be, wouldn't it? Yeah, okay, nods all round. Well, you know what? I don't think it's that crazy a place to be, because partnerships and word of mouth and referrals deliver those ideal clients. And back before pay-per-click, back before direct mail, back before AI bots spamming you on LinkedIn direct messages, back in the day, all you really had was word of mouth. And it's still the most effective form of marketing. We are tribal. As human beings, we are tribal in our nature. And referrals and introductions plays to that tribal nature and that wanting to connect and that wanting to belong. And we've got some stats to back it up. 84% of B2B decision makers say the buying decision still starts with a referral. And companies with formalized referral marketing programs experience 86% more revenue growth. Now, what I will say, if that word formalize starts to send little shudders of fear down you, don't. This isn't what we're going to talk about today. Isn't about pushy sales tactics. It's not about begging people for leads in return for Amazon vouchers. What it's about is about leveraging really trusted, deep relationships, helping the people that already want to help you. It's, as I said, it's the most natural way to do business, and that's what we're going to focus on today. Because I'm sure we've all heard the saying, it's not just what you know. Oh, it's not just what you know, it's who you know. Now, quick show of hands. How many of you get introductions into your business? Get referrals into your business? How many of you receive referrals? Okay, a good number of you. How many of you can I ask for referrals? Okay, we got one and a bit of a nod. And how many of you would say had an actual proper process behind it? Okay, gold star for Tony. But you know what? That is the norm, because typically only around 30% of companies have these formalized referral programs. But I'm going to show you some natural structures and processes today that will allow you to be much more intentional about how you ask, but still keeping it really natural. So process behind the scenes, personal, front of house. Before we do that, very quickly, why me? Why am I here talking about this? For those of you that I've not met before, I've got a background in business membership. The little logo you see, Business Scene, was a membership organisation that we grew to almost 2,000 members, almost entirely through referrals and partnerships. I was then responsible for providing leads to some of the big global brands you see here. So I've had some successes along the way. I've also made or witnessed lots and lots of mistakes, which is where the learnings come from. And now at Collaboration Junkie, we help brands identify, nurture and scale referral and partnership opportunities. And so I've worked with directly with over 100 businesses over the last 4 years to do exactly that through workshops and consultancy, to give people the strategy and the skills to do this stuff right. And that's what I want to share a little bit of time with you today. We are going to cover the who, the why, the what, the when, and the how of referrals. And we're going to do that all in the next 25 minutes and give you a bunch of time for Q&A. Right. There is a golden rule through all of this, and I think it's for life in general as well. Who here is busy at the moment? We had this before, lots of people joined in. So I know David and Tony are busy. Yeah, most people are busy these days, right? We live in a busy culture. Everything's busy and hustle, which means we've become lazy. And I don't mean slobbing around watching Netflix lazy. I mean, if something isn't part of our core day-to-day activity, unless it's easy for us to do it, we don't do it. It goes on the I'll get round to it pile. Whether that's physically hard or mentally hard, we just don't end up doing these things even when we want to. So the golden rule with all this stuff is, if you want someone else to do something for you, you need to make it as easy as possible for them to do that. And that's what we're going to look at today. So I'm going to kick things off with this isn't a dictionary definition. This is my definition of what I believe a referral is. And that's a warm, contextualized introduction to another individual from a mutual connection. It doesn't mean there aren't other types of third-party endorsement out there, but the stuff we're going to be looking at today is really leveraging trusted relationships to get meaningful connections. And so I'm going to throw it out to you here. Why are referrals great? Why are you here? Why are referrals brilliant? I'd sling it in the chat, although I won't be very good at watching that. Or come off mute, shout, anyone. Come on, I warned you it was going to be interactive. No one. Oh, tough crowd today. Come on. God, Tony, you saved me.
Well, referrals are your lifeline, aren't they? So if you've got a pipeline of people sending you referrals, you can focus on generating other leads yourself as well. So it doubles up your income stream.
Yeah,
and as long as you maintain those relationships, and if it's reciprocal, then they're always going to keep referring through to you. Or, as long as there's, it's a two-way street, because if you just expecting referrals to come your way all the time from the same person without giving anything back, they'll just go elsewhere. So yeah, unless you've got a unique product.
Yeah, and we'll come back to that, but you're absolutely right. Here's a few. So the key thing is that people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And while a referral or an introduction, if you prefer the word introduction, while that's short, it doesn't negate that completely. It absolutely shortcuts it, which means in practice you get shorter sales cycles. There's less haggling on price. There's typically no ghosting because there's someone else's reputation involved in that introduction, and it grows the business with clients that you love working with, as long as you ask in the right way. If you've got that arsehole client, don't ask them for an introduction, because they probably know other arseholes, right? Ask for introductions from people that you know and you enjoy working with, because they probably know other people like them. It's also the ultimate sign of trust. Every time someone makes an introduction to you, they are not just providing you with a lead, they are trusting you with a little bit of their reputation. So quite often I get clients say to me that they're worried it'll push their clients away if they ask them for introductions. Actually, if you do it in the right way, it brings them closer to you, because they are putting more and more trust and faith in you. Also, introduced clients are more likely to become introducers. Tony made a very good point about that. This isn't linear. You can ask someone more than once. Not only that, if someone's come to you via introduction, it can be really natural and easy to ask. They're already aware this is how you grow your business, so it becomes an exponential growth piece. And if you've got teams, they're building a culture of referrals where everyone in your organization or everyone customer facing understands the power of this, actually brings them closer, as well as lightening the load on you as an owner and as the sales team. Actually, it brings them closer to the business as well, because they're getting involved. So the big question, and this is a trickier question, so let's see if people are going to be open up now, is why not? For those of you that weren't asking, why aren't you asking for referrals at the moment? There's no right or wrong here. I pretty much promise you won't say anything that someone else hasn't already told me before. So for those of you on what's stopping you doing it more consistently?
I always feel really uncomfortable about asking people, because I feel that I'm sort of going over a line. It feels like I'm sort of, or they want something back, but I don't know what they want back.
Yeah, okay, great. So there's a little bit of it's a little bit of uncertainty there. Okay, cool. Lucy, did I see you try and add a bit there? No, we can't hear you, Lucy. Yeah, you're not on mute, but we can't hear you. How strange. How strange. You could try and do it through the meme of interpretive dance, but I think that might eat away eat away some of our time. Feel free to put it into the chat. Yeah, okay. And I'll bring the chat up now, which I don't normally do because I get too distracted. But typically I get one of a whole range of answers from I don't have time, I don't know the process, when to ask, what to ask for, or that people don't want to be a burden on people. And typically that means it falls into one of two sets. One is process, which is really easy to solve. The other is mindset, and it's something I call the ick, right? It just feels a bit icky asking. And I've given this talk in front of audiences all around the world. Quite quickly, I'm going to quickly jump in on Lucy. Just wanted to ask you a question. Your definition of referrals seemed to me to be not just referrals from clients, but using network to get introductions. Is that correct? Absolutely, yes. Some of what, so it can be any trusted connection. Some of what we speak about today will more directly relate to clients, but most of it applies throughout. So 100%. But I've done this talk in front of American audiences, and if ever there was a nation that you would imagine wouldn't get the ick, it would be them. But no, the ick is a global thing. So I do want to ask you a question on is last time you made an introduction to someone and it went well and you got some nice feedback from people to say that it had gone well, how did that make you feel?
Really good.
Yeah, good, right? It's a nice thing. It speaks back to that tribal thing I was talking about. I wanted to connect. And that's the thing. People love to make introductions. So it's almost our duty to ask for referrals, because as much as it may feel a little bit icky, actually, people do want to help us and people enjoy helping us. So it's almost our duty to ask for introductions, because if you don't, you're denying people that lovely, warm, fuzzy feeling they're going to get when they make the introduction and it goes well. Because at the end of the day, what's the worst that could happen if you ask? Right? Someone says no. No one's going to disown you or complain. Like, the worst that could happen is someone's going to say no. And imposter syndrome and fear of rejection are very real things. I appreciate that, but this is a really powerful way to be growing our business. So, who do we ask? Now, I'm fairly sure that Guess Who is a little bit more diverse than it was when I was growing up, but this is the version of the 80s that I remember. So who can we be asking for introductions? In the interest of time, I'm going to skip over this one. In as much as to say everyone, you can look for introductions from anyone and everyone when it's an opportune moment. But don't just think about your clients. Think about your prospects as well. If you've got prospects that you've built up a really good relationship with, then you can ask them. If you've got advisors that sit around your business, or investors, they have a vested interest in your business, so you can ask them. And then, of course, your wider networks, your communities, anyone and everyone can potentially ask you for introductions. Some you will ask more consistently, and some will be more opportune. But don't be afraid. Just be aware of this stuff. And different people will do it for different reasons, which is why I'm going to touch on why people refer now. First and foremost, people refer because they love to, right? The other side of what I do is look at strategic partnerships, which are other businesses that can refer you consistently. Quite often there will be a commercial relationship in place there. And I'll share next month's workshops on those partnerships, and I'll share that after. But when you're looking at the people in your network and your customers and your clients, most people will introduce you because they want to. There's a brilliant book called Drive by Dan Pink, which talks about extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. Most of us are intrinsically motivated. We will do things because we want to do them. And if you over incentivize an introduction at the outset, hey, if you give me a referral, we'll give you this. Actually, it can have the adverse effect. It can really put people off and make them feel icky. There's been so many studies, and it shows them in the book I mentioned, but I've seen them elsewhere, of where people are suddenly monetized to do a thing that they previously enjoyed doing, and they lose all passion for it whatsoever. And it's a similar thing with referrals. You should absolutely reward people and say thank you for introductions, particularly if they lead to successful business. But over incentivizing at the start can be really, really dodgy. What you can do is if the person you're asking is in a sales role or commission-based role, there's a good chance that they're extrinsically motivated, and so you can have that conversation with them if you want to offer commissions and that. But in general, I wouldn't lead with it. And when it comes to reward, for successful referrals, I always say the purpose of a reward is to raise an unexpected smile. You want someone to pick up the phone and go, Lucy, there was no need for that, but thank you. That was so nice to receive. And the more personal, the better. So I'll give an example. I got a very, very chunky referral going back a number of years ago now. And the guy who referred it into me, there's no way in the world he'd have accepted money. So I took him out to a nice sushi restaurant for lunch because I know that was his favourite. And at the end of it, I gave him a 150 quid Ticketmaster voucher because in a previous conversation, he'd said about how him and his wife hadn't been to a gig for ages. So there you go, get a gig on me, and I want to hear all about it. And that meant a lot. And so the more personal you can make it to the person, the better. If you don't know someone that well, then drop down a level again. But it's raising that unexpected smile. That's, for me, is the purpose of a reward. It's a thank you rather than the reason someone's going to do it. We're all okay on that piece. Yeah. So that Philip, I think it was you that said you don't know someone will want someone in return. Most people won't, but it's still nice to do it. It's still nice to do it anyway. Okay, so we're going to really come down onto that making it easy now, with what we're asking for. Right now, this is what I call the referral staircase, and so we can ask for all sorts of different things. Right, we can use referrals as and introductions as a strategy for getting more partners, getting investors, getting team members, anything and everything we can use it for. And it's also, we should be using it in some of our other channels, right? If we're running an event, getting people to share it, getting people to share our content, all great stuff that builds up on this referral staircase. But as I said, today we're really going to focus on getting high quality introductions into potential kind of clients and partners. And so there's a number one rule, and that's to be specific. There's a reason why I use this image, not just because I love festivals and music, but because when I was running my membership organization, I was running maybe 3 events a week, typically anywhere between kind of 50 and 100 business owners at them. So that's kind of 250 a week, obviously a larger network than that. And as the host of the event, people would often come up to me and look for introductions. And I'd say, yeah, sure. Who do you do business with? People would go, oh, I can work with any small business owner, thinking that was the easiest way for me to make an introduction because it's so broad. But when someone says that, or you say that, you know what people see? They see a crowd of people like a festival, like at the front of a festival. No one springs to mind. The minute you are more specific about what you're looking for, the easier it is. So the minute someone said, I'm looking to speak to marketing agencies, brilliant, shorten down. Of this size, brilliant, shorten down again. With this specialism, who target this sort of market, even better. It just makes it so much easier for people to make an introduction. If you ask 10 people for an introduction and you're vague, 10 people will probably say yes, because people are nice people. But you'll be lucky if 4 do it. And if any of those are the people you really want to be speaking to, then you've done well. The minute you're specific, your kind of top of funnel dopamine hit that we're all kind of geared up for these days depletes, because maybe only 4 say that they can do it, but 3 will do it, but 3 will actually will, and all 3 will be the people that you really want to speak to. So being specific is really powerful. If you do work with anyone and everyone, then a great way of being specific is to think about the last great bit of work you did, right? That you really enjoyed, that was really profitable, where everyone got a great result, and be specific in that way. Think of just whatever hook you can do, or is there a bit of context that means you were looking for a particular type of business now? you can change the specific thing you look for each time you speak, right? It can change month on month. But in each individual instance, really try and be as specific as you possibly can, and you'll find it much, much easier. A great thing to do as well is think about where the person you're speaking to, think about where their network is strongest, because that's easy for them, right? So the easier you can make it for them, the more likely they are to say yes. Anyone got any idea on the absolute easiest way to be specific for someone?
Say their name.
Yeah,
Or the
perfect.
company.
Perfect. And you can tell Tracy runs a network because she's got it. Yeah. Yeah, if you know someone knows someone, then that is the easiest thing in the world to do. For me, I make quite a lot of introductions, I get asked quite a lot as well. But when someone says to me, "Oh, Dave, can you introduce me to so and so?" and they give me the relevant context, as long as I trust that person well with my reputation, then I'm making that introduction like that, because it is so easy for me to do. And obviously things like LinkedIn make it really, really easy to do this. If you know that there's a conversation coming where you're going to be potentially asking for an introduction, then LinkedIn's a brilliant place to do that. Now, not everyone knows everyone on LinkedIn. We all collect connections sometimes, right? Met someone at an event however long ago. In that instance, if you notice that someone's connected to a couple of people on LinkedIn and you give them those couple of names and they're not connected to them, something powerful still really happens. The person that you're asking will really appreciate that you've done some of the heavy lifting for them, which means they're much more likely to think of someone off their own back because they appreciate you've not just gone cap in hand, you've tried to make it easy. But also, if you've given them a couple of names and they're quite similar, you've trained them as to who a good introduction is for you. So Tony may go, "Oh, Dave, you know what? I don't actually know Jack or Emma, but I do know George, who runs this business. It's quite similar. Would you like that introduction?" And you go, "Yes, Tony, I'd love that. Thank you very much." Right? So that power of being specific is really, really important. There is another way of being specific. So that specific name or type of business is brilliant for immediate introductions. But I want to talk about triggers and moments in time. Quick show of hands. Have you all heard about the power of storytelling in marketing? Yeah, show of hands or nods. Yeah. Okay, right. Everyone has these days, right? What triggers are there like little mini stories that sit in the minds of your clients, your network, your trusted connections, so that they're ready and waiting to refer you at any given time. And how we come up with these is we look at the moments in time. So moments in time for me is the moment in time in your own business where the sales conversation is absolute easiest, where you're speaking to a prospect and whatever challenge you solve, whatever opportunity you help or problem you solve, the customer is right in it, and they're like, "Owen, stop, don't need pitch anymore, take my money and just help me, please." Those moments in time, we all have the moment in time in our business where like it's absolutely perfect, right? And I would encourage you all to kind of, if there's an exercise to be done after this workshop, is to get a bit of paper, draw a line down the middle, and on the left hand side put down your various moments in time, right? And it could be a personal thing, or it could be a time-based thing. Someone's moved offices or employed a first member of team, or whatever it may be. What the triggers are is, what are your prospects saying when they're in that moment in time? Because I can tell you what they're not saying, and that's whatever's written on your website, right? We all wish they were. We all wish they were going around saying that they were looking for proactive accountants, or a genuinely full-scale agency who understands their brief, or whatever it may be, right? But people don't talk in those terms in day-to-day environments. People are typically getting excited about stuff, or more often than not, moaning about stuff. And if you can kind of get those triggers down into what people are genuinely going to be saying, and they're really powerful hooks that you can feed into your network. For example, so you said, Peter, if you hear, when you're out and about at networking events, if you hear anyone saying bam, then I would love an introduction because I can help them in this way. And what those triggers do, they sit there much more powerfully than Peter's looking to speak to accountants, right? Those little stories, because they're real world kind of things that people say, they sit there in people's minds. So the specific name or type of business is great for an immediate introduction. But if you've got contacts who you know are good networkers and are quite opportunistic, giving them these little triggers are brilliant ones for sending people out there to constantly have you on your mind. For most people as well, well, I say most, yeah, more often than not, people often find this a more relaxed ask as well. If you are feeling a little bit icky about asking still and going in for the direct, do you know these type of people, then often going, if you hear someone saying about this, it could maybe they've moved into a new home and they haven't got the time to, don't know where to start with their redecorating, Philippa, or whatever it may be. Give people real life examples. It may seem like common sense. We may like to think that our clients on our network would obviously refer us if they heard these things, but they won't, because it's not common sense, it's your experience, and people need to be asked. The subconscious is such a powerful tool, and we're not the center of our networked universe, right? They are, what they're doing. So you need to be really direct and kind of get people pointing out for this stuff. But really encourage you to go away and think about what those triggers are for your referrers to listen out for. Okay, so when to ask. We know who we should be asking, we know why they would want to refer us, we know what we're asking for, we're being specific in one way or another. When do we ask for, when's the best time to ask for introductions? Come on, people, there's no wrong answer.
Not when they're drunk, because they won't remember you.
Wow, I would, wow.
Especially when they're drunk.
You might just need to remind them. Philippa, right? So yeah. Okay, you might just need to remind them, but yeah, okay.
A relaxed situation is good. When they're feeling relaxed, they're not feeling pressured, and over a cup of coffee, things like that.
Yeah,
or one drink.
The more personal, the better. It can often work. Yeah, absolutely. Anyone else?
When you've just completed work with them?
Potentially, Peter. And you know what? That is the standard one. People think we do it at the end of a project kind of thing. So potentially, yes. Yeah, absolutely. Anyone else? Right. So there's lots of sales training out there that says the best time to ask is just after someone's bought. And again, I'm not going to say that's necessarily wrong, but it's not always right. For me, the best time to ask is when your customers are most delighted with you. And the thing is, though, we don't get to decide when we've delivered enough value for someone to refer us. We think we do. We often think, oh, I've got to have done this before I can ask for an introduction. We don't make that decision. Our customers or our network decide when we've delivered enough value to them in order to make an introduction. I'm going to move our friend on here. It gets a bit distracting. I'm going to use a couple of examples. First one was when I got my branding done. I knew it was going to be good because I knew the agency that did it. I'm friends with the founder. However, when they sent me the first draft back of what it was going to be, it was just the best. I get little goosebumps when I think about it now. I was sat in the dining room table and I got it back, and it was just so much more than I ever expected it. That was the perfect time to ask, because to your point, Peter, a month later, when the project was finished and I had all my assets, it wasn't that it wasn't great, but all they'd done was deliver against my heightened levels of expectation. So the real wow moment that, oh my God, these guys have been better than I thought, came earlier on in the process. I know people that get a bunch of introductions before people are clients because their discovery work is so in depth that they do it. If you've got a new bit of tech, if you're a founder with a new bit of tech that's come out and people go, oh my God, where have you been all my life? At that point, then people are ready to tell every single person they know with the same problem as them about you, right? That said, for some things, it's a lag effect. SEO, coaching often has a lag effect before people see the real results. And so what I would encourage you all to do is map out your customer journeys from the first point of contact with your brand all the way through until after you finish working with someone, and have a think about all the wow moments. Now, for some of them, you're not going to be in the room, right? So maybe you want to start thinking about where you can add in some extra customer touch points to capture those. And you don't ask all of these, right? Because it's going to be different for different customers. And if you ask constantly all the time, then it's back to the pushy sales tactics that this isn't about. But what this is about is just making you aware that there are these different points where it can become really, really effective to ask. And it's just about flagging it to yourself so you can go, okay, this might be an opportunity. And then an introduction and a referral request, I believe, is still a very personal thing. So it's up to you in that moment to go, is this right? Have I got the right response? And if so, great. On that subject, we don't want to ruin the moment, right? If someone's having a massive breakthrough, then maybe it isn't always the right time to ask for an introduction there and then. But in that instance, pick up the phone to them the next day, right? Recreate that moment, kind of remind them and ask there. Shouldn't be doing this at the expense of the customer experience, but just have these in place. Right, how to ask. There is no golden rule here. There is no golden formula, I should say. But the golden rule is to keep it natural. Which comes back to the personal point, I think, that you mentioned, Philippa, right? It won't always be a personal situation, but it should feel personal. There's lots of people I know that kind of almost take that deep breath. We have like, right, and now I'm going to ask for an introduction. And it kind of just doesn't work. It should feel like asking a favor from a friend, right? It should be dropped into conversation rather than this formalized piece. So keeping it natural doesn't mean casual. If your conversations with your clients are quite formal and structured, well then fine, build it in that way. However, mine aren't. I mean, I can get away with it, right? I kind of talk about this stuff, so it'd be a bit odd if I didn't ask for introductions. But I'm quite cheeky and direct with mine because I am. That's the nature of me. But it will be different for different clients. So whatever natural means to you, then that's what you need to be doing. But I would have a couple of different ways of phrasing it. I wouldn't have a script, but I would write it down. If you're going to go away and you think, you know what, there's a couple of people I'm going to go back to and ask for introductions, write down what you're going to say to them, then say it out loud and go, oh, can I actually imagine myself saying those words? And then give it a go. Practice makes progress. Even with the people that come on my programs and workshops, they all say the first time they go, oh, I asked, but I wasn't quite right. It's because if you're not doing it all the time, then it takes a while for it to feel truly natural. But practice makes progress. So yeah, keep it natural, say it out loud. Typically though, there's a structure where there'll be some kind of tee up, which will be someone saying something nice about you, or you going back to someone because something good's happened. Tony, yes.
I was going to say, if people don't really want to do the direct approach in terms of referrals, I've always found a good way is to ask for recommendations. So if they post something on your LinkedIn about Tony did this great piece of work for me, and then it filters into their network as well then. So people in a similar situation or may have the same issues that they did, then, you know, you've already got a warm introducer through their connections. So
yeah, so Tony, that's a great point. And you know what, it's a question that I often get asked is, do I ask for introduction or do I ask for a review or a testimonial? And actually it's not an either or. If you've got clients or long-standing contacts that you know would offer you a testimonial, you don't know how to ask for an introduction, well, someone leaving you a testimonial is a wow moment in itself. They've just reminded themselves about how great you are. And so actually, a really nice part of a process is you can ask someone for a review or a testimonial, and when they do it, say thanks and go, one more thing. So that would be the tee up in this instance. The tee up would be someone's given you a LinkedIn recommendation or a testimonial or a review, and you go, thanks so much for your kind words, Lucy. Really means a lot that's what you think. Listen, I couldn't ask one more favour, could I? And it's just a really natural flow in, because it doesn't actually take people time. The second piece is the specifics. So that's, are you asking for a specific introduction, or are you doing one of the triggers? Then it's a deliberate request. So make sure you ask for an actual introduction, because otherwise people go, oh, I introduce you all the time. I mention you to everyone and anyone I see. And you're like, well, oh, why don't I hear from these people, right? Make sure that you're actually asking for an introduction, which is a bit people often miss out. Context is key. If someone's trusting you with that introduction, let them know why it is you want that. So that it doesn't come across as you're just looking to drop someone into the sales funnel, right? There's a reason why I've just done a great bit of work with someone just like them. There's a bit of legislation changing that means this, or whatever it may be. And then another really important bit is reassurance on the gentle I call it the gentle next step. The person you're talking to probably knows that you're not going to hard sell the person. But if you remind them that in the first instance, you'll just get on the phone, have a chat, whatever it may be, they're more likely to mention that to the person that they're going to introduce you to. And I don't know about you, someone's saying, oh, I should introduce you to Tony. He's a really good guy. He'll help you out. And I know we'll just jump on the phone in the first instance and give you a bit of his advice, which we'd all do as business owners. It's much nicer than, I should introduce Tony. He does this thing. And it sounds like you're going into a sales process. So remind the person you want to make an introduction that actually, when they hand over that person to you, that they're going to be treated softly and kindly and in a non-salesy way. Quick challenge for you all. If anyone wants to either do written or even better, voice note me on LinkedIn, their referral, I don't want to say pitch because it shouldn't feel like a pitch, but I don't know how else to do it. If anyone wants to send me a voice note or written down their referral request wording, then I will more than happily review and give you some feedback on it. So are we going to get anyone committing to doing that? Show of hands if you're going to commit to do that. Oh, Philippa, well done. The rest of you, shame on you. You are chickens. Right. Final piece. So that's the who, why, when, what, and how. Final piece here is communication is key. Remember that piece I said about trust? Every time someone gives you a lead, they trust you with their reputation. Keep them in the loop. If you want people to refer you consistently, then let them know what's gone on with the introductions they've made to you. Not all the time, don't bombard them, but let them know at key points. So say thank you when they make the introduction. Let them know what happens after the first call. Keep them up to date. Even if it doesn't turn, and at conclusion, even if it doesn't turn into business, still to say thank you. They still took the time to refer you. Saying thank you gets another referral potentially. And if you educate them as to why it didn't work out, potentially they refer someone more suited next time round. So communication is absolutely key if you want to get this stuff done on a repeat basis. So remember, people love to give introductions. Be specific about what you're asking for and ask people when they're at the most happy, and keep it natural. Do all that stuff together and I promise you will get better results. But if you want to work through this stuff, then here's how you can do it with me. I do work direct with businesses, but also I run a group program, an online group program, which is a Better Referrals More Often program. It's 2 half-day workshops and then 3 1-hour follow-up sessions to keep people accountable and make sure shit actually happens. Why is it not working? So there's a big old framework document that you get as well, and an action plan of all your of what needs to happen and when, so you can follow that and stuff. Implement, as well as the group. There's one-to-one support from me as well. There's a maximum of 8 business owners on there, so it keeps it hyper personalized to you and your business. And it's a one-off fee. It's a 3rd cohort, so there's it's a stupidly low price, to be honest with you. I'm fairly certain that for any of you, one customer kind of brings that in. As I said, I do that. I do it in a group format as well if you want. As I said, anyone that would like to speak about that group program, then please let me know. I'll be giving you all a shout as part of a follow-up to this anyway, once I've sent you the slides and the recordings. But for now, before I open to questions, I would just like to say, if it's not for you, but you know of other business owners that would like to formalise their referral programs, maybe they're moaning that they get referrals but they're not the right quality, or it's a founder who's twitchy about all the referrals come from them, then I'd love an introduction so I can talk to them about how they can build a culture of referrals. Or if you know anyone that's looking for guest speaker for their events, that's a brilliant introduction for me. I talk on this stuff. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how easy it is to ask for an introduction.